Welcome to the Sober Boozers Club podcast, a place where we can talk openly and honestly about addiction, sobriety, and strangely enough, beer. I'm Ben, I'm an alcoholic, and for the last 2 years I've been sampling some of the finest alcohol-free beers the world has to offer. Each week, I'll be joined by a different guest to discuss their own lived experiences on all things related to the world of low and no alcohol beverages. So pour yourself a tipple, relax, and let me welcome you to the Sober Boozers Club. In today's episode, I talked to Michael Sarooud, otherwise known as Happy Without the Hooch. Now, Michael decided to rebuild his life in his 40s and has since become an Alcohol Change UK ambassador and is the founder of Sober News UK. Michael's a really active member of the sober community and he's bloody hilarious, so it's been really nice to really break down sobriety and some of the myths surrounding early sobriety in a really open and honest way. So if you haven't met Michael yet, this is for you. So Michael, hello, how are you today?
Hello, I'm exceedingly well, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you. It's been a wash day today, as we were just discussing, and I believe you're off to the gym later.
You say a wash day, I think that needs clarifying. The clothes, I mean, you wash every day, don't you?
I wash most days. These days, that's the one gift that sobriety has given me.
There's fragrant armpits.
Yes, and everywhere else, for that matter.
I'll have to take your word for that.
You're off to the gym, how incredibly cliched.
Oh, don't. It's been 3 years now, I've got really fat. Because I'm not one of those Instagram sober people, you know. Well, I'm on Instagram, but I'm not very Instagrammable. I just do it in spite of being not Instagrammable. And I haven't really transformed my life overnight by giving up drinking and going to the gym every day, finding purpose, living out the vision board and making it all manifest. I've done none of that. I've mainly binge eaten with the cats in front of Netflix for 3 years, during which time I've got exceedingly fat. And I got puffed out putting the laundry in the washing machine the other day, and that was my health and fitness rock bottom. And I thought, you know what, I've got to do something about this. My partner might die and I might find myself widowed and then no one's going to want me. So I better sort myself out.
It's scary, isn't it, when I've noticed so many ailments since I stopped drinking. Whereas, I mean, I know I must be more healthy, but since I gave up booze, it's kind of like, oh, this is going on. It must be cancer. Like I'm so anxious about my general health since I stopped drinking.
You're a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
It's just I want to be comfortable when I'm lying in bed, and it's hard to get comfortable lying on a tire, which is essentially what I'm doing. I never used to have this problem, but yeah, I don't. As an ex once said to me, like he said, Michael, you've got to go to the gym because I don't want to be with someone who's old and fat, and you can't do anything about being old. So I'm going to do something about the thing I can do something about. Being overweight is a choice. I do enjoy eating the food, but I'm training my brain to enjoy the taste of leaves, and I'm trying to convince myself that I enjoy sweating.
Wow, that's a daily challenge for most people, I think.
It is. I got up at 6 to go to the gym. It's now 1 p.m. and I still haven't made it. I've got the early morning starting though. I never used to do that, but now
that's half of the battle, I think. At least the
quite
willingness to go is there.
I've been getting up at 6 to go to the gym, and then there's so many crosswords and puzzles, and then the Wordle and everything. By the time I've done all those, I have not got enough time left for the gym, so I just have to make some breakfast.
So, talking about sobriety and the cliches that we're not following, what did your first day of sobriety look like?
First day?
Yes.
Oh God. Well, I suppose my first day of sobriety was actually lying on a sofa, sweating, shaking. I couldn't even put the telly on because that was too much stimulation. And I got up about 3 times to drink water and wee, and that was day 1 done.
I think that's quite a common theme. I mean, my first day started at 5:30, and I don't really remember the rest of it. And
I tried to sleep. I couldn't even sleep. I was just lying there shaking. And then I realised that no one's going to come round.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I might as well see this. It was horrible. I'd been it was the end of a drinking session that had lasted days. And led on to other substances as well. And then I was just
Yeah.
cold, shivering, horrible wreck. I thought, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just bored of feeling like death.
Mm-hmm. And how many attempts did you have, or how many attempts at moderation? Was this like an ongoing thing
Oh,
where
the
it was?
moderation, I had 10 years of attempts. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
have a number really for how
Wow.
many attempts. For the last 3 years of my drinking, I was regularly attending my local drug and alcohol centre.
Yeah.
And I would sometimes make it up to a week. I've
Mm-hmm.
had some stints of sobriety, and then the day one I've just described, it's debatable whether that's day one or not, because I stayed sober for 7 months and then I relapsed for 3. But that was my first concerted, semi-successful effort. I'd stayed sober for 7 months and then drank every day again for 3 months. But I had been attempting in various ways to moderate. I didn't want to stop forever. That sounded miserable. I just wanted to be a normal person, drink like a normal person, have fun, like go home and wake up the next day without feeling like death or finding you've injured yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's a scary thing, isn't it, at first, the thought of never again, because you start thinking weddings, you start thinking birthdays, Christmas, etc.
There was never a good time to stop. It's like, well, okay, well, I can't stop this week because next weekend I've got my friends coming down from Norfolk, and
Yeah.
they'll be expecting it. They wouldn't come along if they weren't having a piss up. That's the reason they're coming, and they've spent money on trains and things and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I've got a birthday, or then there's a wedding, and I can't not drink at the wedding. And that now, in hindsight, is ridiculous because all I ever did at weddings was spoil people's weddings by drinking. Yeah, I was thinking, it would be rude. It would be rude of me not to drink at their wedding. What a slight that would be. No, actually, being a complete drunken asshole at the wedding, that was the offensive bit.
Yeah.
Not the fact that you didn't drink.
And have these people, that you were worried about, did they leave once you stopped drinking, or are you still close with them, or how have your relationships with these people changed since sobriety?
They drifted apart mainly.
Mm-hmm.
My group of friends today is completely different to my group of friends when I was drinking. I didn't really have a group of friends towards the end of my drinking because I was just not pleasant company.
No, it does. It happens, doesn't it?
I was miserable. I was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I was like, I loved a good night out, but the people I were with generally didn't because they ended up looking after me, and that's not much fun, as I've discovered since I stopped drinking and continued going out, looking after everyone else and actually realizing, bloody hell, this is boring.
It's scary, isn't it? I think it gets to about 11 p.m., I've noticed, and then this kind of atmosphere change occurs where you kind of, if you're going from bar to bar, at the 11 o'clock kind of cutoff, you go outside and everyone is different. And it's as if this mist has come through and they've all been infected and changed. And it's really bizarre to see it happen.
And then by 2 a.m., it's just absolutely intolerable.
Yeah, I've normally just got a headache by that time. Like, the strangest thing is waking up with kind of the faux hangover. When you wake up and you've kind of got the headache and you feel a little bit worse for wear, and then you just have a glass of water and it's gone.
I'm tired and I've had too much sugar normally,
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about nights out, are you a drinker of alcohol-free beverages? Is that something that you dabble in, or is that a trigger for you? Because it is important, I think, to discuss. That they're not for everybody.
They weren't like a really important coping mechanism for me. Like I know they are for some people. Some people, like, they're sober long term and alcohol-free drinks have helped them get through. Well, I discovered, I didn't discover, I've always known it really. I don't particularly like the flavour of most alcoholic drinks, but I never drank them for the flavour.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not, I haven't missed the flavour of beer. I mean, if I was out, I would knock back pints of beer because that's what men do.
Yes.
Obviously, I've never liked lager, but, pints of Foster, I'd have that. If I was at home, I'd just be on neat vodka or like cheap Merlot, Hardy's Turning Leaf Merlot, or some sort of £5 a bottle crap.
Yeah.
And you know what? That doesn't taste nice either. And neat vodka doesn't. I went on to neat vodka. I used to have mixes with it, but then it was just a faff having to add 2 drinks to a glass.
Yeah.
And then, like, Coke costs about £2 a bottle. Well, the vodka I was buying was from Lidl, and that was £10 a bottle. So the bottle of Coke, that's one fifth
Yeah.
of a bottle of vodka. And I know I'd need more vodka, and my money might not stretch till the end of the month if I kept on getting a bottle of Coke every time I bought a bottle of vodka. So, priorities. So I've dabbled in alcohol-free drinks. There's some that I like. I like functional drinks.
Yes.
But I don't have them very often. I'll have them if I'm at a sober event, and I'll have some in the house. I seem to acquire them. I've picked up a few. I've been given some as well. And I like adult soft drinks just as much. My staples are just sugar-free ginger ale. I can guzzle that.
Nice.
Love a bit of iron brew.
Yes. King of the soft drinks.
Yeah, so soft drinks are good. And then I have dabbled in the odd kombuchas but not so much now. I'm happy with water, tea, and coffee mainly.
It is. I think that's the thing. Like they aren't for everybody, and it's something that I kind of stress, or try to stress at least, is that this is what has helped me, but it isn't what will help everybody. And no recovery journey looks the same, does it? Everyone is different. Everyone has different kind of vices.
And some people will find them triggering.
Yes, absolutely.
My partner's also sober, 18 months.
Nice.
And he, on a couple of occasions, went out, bought alcohol-free beers, had about 3 bottles, and then got frustrated that they weren't working, and then snuck out and came back with the real thing.
Yeah.
And so, I started dabbling in alcohol-free drinks probably about 6 months into being sober anyway. So I got over most of it. I wasn't relying upon them from day one.
Yes.
And I was concerned that I might be triggered, so I thought I won't bother then. I'll do it without. But now I can enjoy. I like gabba spirits, Sentia. I like things that they can change. Like you change your mood. 3 spirit drinks as well.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Looking into all of that. I mean, the first time I kind of tried a functional drink, it was an Imposter Brew beer, and it was like I had it, and I kind of sat there going like, I'm a bit nervous. And it's so strange because the amount of shit that I used to put into my body, and there I was drinking some herbs.
It's like, oh no, maybe I've overdone it on the verbena.
Oh, yes, it's like, what if I suddenly feel relaxed? It's ridiculous.
Terrible.
Whereas the things I used to do, I can remember once being at a party and rolling someone a spliff with coriander because I didn't want to give them my weed. And I just sat there from the other end of the room looking, I wonder what's going to happen to him. And he smoked it, and I don't know if it was like placebo, but it did something.
2 mongs in us. Well, I, as a teenager, I used to smoke weed before I smoked, really, and before I drank from the age of 12. And I had no weed. And me and my friend Joe, we lived next to the woods. We went into I took half of my stepmom's herb collection, and we worked our way through smoking each of the herbs. Sage was unbearable.
Yeah.
And we just tried them all to see if any of them gave us a hit, and it was just the most horrific experience. We almost set fire to the woods as well because it was parched dry and in this little field next to
God.
It was horrific, and none of them worked.
No.
None of them.
No.
And don't smoke sage.
Imagine if that did work when you were the first people to discover it.
I know, that's what I thought was going to happen. It's like, oh my God, people are spending all this money on drugs, and here I am discovering that actually English flat leaf parsley is what you should be cultivating in the garden and smoking. Yeah, but no, I didn't make such a discovery.
No. Well,
obviously somebody before me had also tried their entire mum's herb collection.
Yeah, I've always wondered with smoking, like the origins of it, because I just imagine, it's a really natural thing, isn't it? They discovered fire, and then they thought, okay, fire is cool. I want fire in me, and that's how smoking
generally
started.
Things like don't you find that generally when you like something, you want it in you?
Yeah, often. That's often that's what's led to most of my issues, to be honest.
I mean, they had that trend up north when I was living in Manchester. In the mid-noughties of wheelie bin, people setting fire to wheelie bins to get high off of the fumes of the melting plastic.
Oh,
and I've heard that this craze has started again.
Okay.
How desperate must you be for a high to start inhaling wheelie bin fumes?
Yeah, that's outrageous. And very specific as well.
And think of the cost to the council taxpayer.
Yeah. I mean, I've found a good fact recently that might be nonsense, but I'm going to take it as gospel. But
We'll call it a fact, though. We'll
yeah,
still call it.
it's, and I won't be fact checked because I'm not famous enough. Um, but it's that pandas shouldn't eat bamboo.
No, that's
Um,
the only thing they do eat.
but apparently bamboo gives them absolutely no nutritional value, like nothing. But they choose to eat it because it makes them high.
It's a bit like koalas then with the eucalyptus. They get,
I
it's the
think
only
it
thing
is.
they eat.
I think it is koalas with eucalyptus. I don't think it's pandas and bamboo. Oh,
Well,
I
there
should
you
have
go then.
researched this before I started talking about it.
That's fine. Like we got there eventually, and the
One
concept
of those
is the
two
same.
bears
Yeah,
shouldn't eat what they eat, and I
neither of which are
think it
bears.
might
But
be
yeah,
koalas.
koalas, yeah, they do get the nutrition, but it also makes them high. The only thing they'll eat also makes them high, which is a bit like me and my relationship with alcohol. The only
Yeah.
thing I put in my stomach made me high. And but I was also thinking about nutrition. Cows the other day. I was just lying in bed because I struggle to sleep still.
Mhm.
Sober sleep doesn't always happen.
No,
There is
no,
a
it
lot
does
of
not.
protein on a cow, isn't there?
Yes.
Like you get a lot of meat on it. Where are they getting their protein from? They're only eating grass. How much
Hmm.
grass? Like last time I checked, grass isn't rich in protein
Well, this
or
was
any
an
kind of.
argument when I went because I went vegan for a while, and when I was an alcoholic, I was really angry about everything, so I became quite a militant vegan.
Oh, I
Um,
can imagine that. Yeah.
and it was kind of the argument about protein. I used to come back with that. Where do you think a cow gets its protein from? Plants. Mm. Um, I don't
Does
know
that-
what the protein value of grass is. I know broccoli's quite good.
But it's not. I just don't see how a beast the size of a cow can, which you get huge chunks of meat off of. How you can get it just from grass? I mean, it does have four stomachs. I don't know if
Mm.
that helps.
It must do. It must do
Maybe we're just
something.
inefficient at extracting the protein from grass, and
Yeah.
because we only have one stomach, that could be it. And
Yeah.
if we, there must be people out there who've got mutations and have like two stomachs. Maybe they're like better at absorbing
Maybe
protein.
that's
And
what.
in
Maybe that's those are
the
the people that go to
future,
the gym after 5 p.m.
the future of the human race, I think we're going to have more stomachs because the mutants with the two stomachs who are better at absorbing leaf protein are
Mhm.
going to be better equipped to handle the protein crisis that we face with an increasing population. They're going to start breeding and they're going to have a competitive advantage, survival of the fittest. And before you know it, we're all going to have four stomachs and six udders. I
Oh,
did warn this would happen, that we might digress.
well, this is sobriety in a nutshell, isn't it? I think it's kind of just talking absolute nonsense.
I've only got the one stomach, but I'm working on the udders. That's one of the reasons I'm going to the gym, is to reduce the udders.
Talk to me about drink aware, because this is something that you talked about recently, and actually it made me go, "Oh shit," for lack of a better
Drinkware,
word.
a very naughty charity.
Yes.
It's a sheep in wolf's clothing. There's two sort of large national charities in the UK that campaign on reducing alcohol harm.
Yeah.
Now, Alcohol Change UK and Drink Aware, seemingly very similar, other than their makeup. Really, Alcohol Change UK is a charity. It makes its money from donations. Plus, the government had opened up this fund that had been created from alcohol licensing many years ago, and there's this big pot of cash that accumulates interesting things, and they get some funding from that. So all very ethical, and they are on a mission to eliminate alcohol harm, and they've got all sorts of resources to help you do it. And then it's the income is also made up from people doing fundraising activities.
Mhm.
I've done some myself, and Drink Aware, on the other hand, is a charity which is set up and funded by the alcohol industry. So their funding is almost entirely from donations from the alcohol industry.
Mhm.
They also aim to reduce alcohol harm. It's slightly inauthentic, some people might argue. Why would the
Yes.
alcohol industry pay millions of pounds to help promote a charity that reduces alcohol harm? And the main reason for that is because alcohol in the UK, the alcohol industry is not regulated by government, it is self regulated.
Oh, good. Well, that always works.
Yes, so the alcohol industry polices the alcohol industry.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to maintain that, because they don't want external regulation, they don't want another body to be looking into them and doing it, they show that they're able to do it by funding a charity, which they then have control over, and they can control the messaging. So they put money into this group to show that they are capable of policing themselves and therefore don't come and take over the policing job. And that they make money from donations, but also that little tiny drink-aware
Yeah, the logo that you
logo
see
you might see on
everywhere.
bottles. Yeah, if you look hard enough.
Yes.
It's quite small. They also they do things such as looking at the messaging that they give out. If you want to look at messaging regarding alcohol harm, Drinkware is more likely to tell you to drink responsibly. So,
Yes.
and if you get any trouble in your life as a result of alcohol, it's because you didn't follow their good advice of drinking responsibly. That tiny little message they put in the corner of the bottle that's going to be hard to find. So it very much puts the onus back on the person buying the alcohol. They have an app as well, and it's called Dry Days. They don't want to tell you to stop drinking. They just try and tell you to take some dry days. They will also tell you about the dangers of excessive drinking, such as breast cancer. They will tell you about that, but they don't like to so much. And if you ask them about the risk of breast cancer from alcohol, they'll tell you it is one of many causes. They'll minimize the impact of alcohol.
Yeah.
Say yes, they won't deny the existence of it, of the link, but they will minimize it and tell you there's lots of other lifestyle changes which you could make that would reduce your chances. So it has an agenda. It's
putting the ownership on the drinker.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's such a it's like you wouldn't say to a cancer patient, well, it's your fault. I mean, maybe to a smoker, some people would. It would be very cruel, but but to anyone suffering with, with any kind of disease, which alcoholism is, you wouldn't turn around and say, well, you had the choice here. It's it's a strange situation to be in, isn't it? When you really do look into it.
Big alcohol is no better than big tobacco was. We can see today what big tobacco was like.
Yeah.
And we think it's archaic, and we can see the cruelty behind it. I mean, alcohol today is what tobacco was like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's glamorized like tobacco was.
Yeah.
And now it's seen as uncool, isn't it? So I'm hoping that we have a similar shift towards alcohol. I think it's startling the difference between how we treat the two substances. Tobacco has to be hidden away. There's no advertising of it. The boxes are bland and they contain very clear warnings. And that's because it causes harm. It's harmful. But alcohol also causes harm. The harms are different. They're maybe not as pronounced, some would say, as the harms of smoking on the person who takes the drug. But the harms to society of alcohol far exceed the harms of society to smoking. Yeah. Nobody goes out, buys a pack of 20 Marlboro Lights, for example. They don't then go on some sort of off-the-cuff shoplifting spree because they think it's funny. Or they don't smoke a pack of cigarettes, go and then plow someone down in the car.
Yeah.
They don't get involved in acts of violence. I mean, nearly half of all violent crime is alcohol related.
Yeah, well, it's a massive lubricant, isn't it? For
almost
things like
0% of violent crime is cigarette related.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say 0%.
Unless you steal a cigarette off a drunk person.
The harms are different, but the harms of alcohol are much more pronounced. Yet it's still, you can't advertise it as freely as you used to be able to, but you can still advertise it. You've still got alcohol companies sponsoring sports clubs, because obviously we all know that alcohol is a great sport and performance enhancing drug. We're pouring money into things like Pride to show how wonderful and liberal they are, but also massive advertising. And people will make the argument, oh, well, the government's never going to change because they make too much money from alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just got to be one of the biggest misconceptions out there, because the government does make money from taxing alcohol.
Yeah.
It makes £13 billion a year through the taxation through alcohol duty. But the latest estimates on the cost of society, i.e. the taxpayer, of alcohol harm is £27 billion a year. So that means that alcohol duty isn't even paying half of the harm that alcohol causes to society.
Wow. It's scary.
We've just had tax on alcohol. The duty's just been frozen in the last budget announcement again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if we're going to tax alcohol, my personal opinion is that it should at least pay for the harm it causes, because the tax goes on to the alcohol producers, and they are multi-billion pound companies. They make billions and billions every year, and they're not even paying for half of the harm that alcohol causes.
Yeah, well, when you think of who kind of runs that side of big business, it's very, very few companies, isn't it? When you're talking about, like, we're not talking about little microbreweries here. We're talking about big, big, big business.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
And they're not picking up the tab.
No.
So they are taking in the profit, and when alcohol tax is frozen, they get a little bit more profit. And then the taxpayer, so you and me, are paying the bill for the NHS, for the police, for all the harms that alcohol does. It's me and you who's paying extra on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you choose not to drink, you're still paying for the harms of alcohol.
Yeah, that's outrageous. We should be exempt. Maybe that's what we should petition for.
I think that's true.
Like, fuck sobriety activism. I want to look after myself.
Exactly. We should get a rebate.
Yeah, I think so as well.
The sober rebate. Let's campaign for that.
That would be incentive, wouldn't it?
But big alcohol, the industry itself, it's in terms of revenue, there's only 16 countries in the world that have a greater revenue than big alcohol. They have greater GDP than big alcohol makes in revenue. That means all the other countries in the world make less than the alcohol industry in GDP.
Fuck me. That's...
And they're not even paying the tab. They're not paying the tab, and they should pay for the harm they cause. That's my little rant over.
Well, when you start kind of investing your time into this and looking into it, it outrages you, doesn't it?
It's an absolute bloody scandal.
It had me. Alcohol had me, well and truly. If I'd have carried on, I don't know what my life would have looked like. And then once you stop drinking and you look into what goes behind, this poison that we put into ourselves, when you open your eyes and see it, it's always been there, and you've always been able to look at it and go, hang on, this isn't right here. Why are we doing this to ourselves? But it really does it gets you, doesn't it?
It does. It's a good business model because it's addictive.
Yeah.
Since going sober, I mean, I've had lots of, I've hosted events myself, sober nights out. Getting them to pay for themselves is difficult, because when people go to a sober event, they will have one or two drinks and then stop. For some strange reason, which I can't explain, they don't feel the need to knock back 10 alcohol-free drinks in 2 hours.
No, I don't know why that is, Like, I often find this. I get 5 pints deep and I think I've got enough liquid in me now.
Yeah, it's like...
It's so strange, isn't it?
To urinate more now. It's like, I had the flavour, that was nice, I can now stop, thank you very much.
And talking about urinate, I hate having to go to the toilet in a pub without my booze jacket on. It's repulsive. Your booze jacket? Yeah, like when you're 4 pints deep, you piss in the middle of a dance floor, it's fine.
Oh,
but I know, that's not even the worst thing I did. But the thought of going...
What's the worst thing you did?
Oh my goodness.
Pass that idea. Carry on.
The thought of going into a pub bathroom now, completely sober, is just like, this is just a horror show. It is.
I still go to pubs, but it's breakfast or lunch. I don't even bother going out in the evening anymore. When I first stopped drinking, I was determined every weekend I must go out. And then I'd hear people who'd been long-term sober and say, I don't go out in the evening, I just do things during the day. And I was thinking, I'm I never want to be one of you people. I'm never going to be a sado like that. I'm going to show the world just how much fun you can have sober. And then I'll wake up without a hangover. And every Friday and Saturday night, I was out in the pub having a miserable, bloody time and giving them lifts back, or making sure, calling the ambulance, or making sure they got home safe. And of course, on the way to the car, they'd all have to stop off for a dirty kebab, and they couldn't get the order right. They'd drop it down.
The McDonald's drive home, because you're designated. Well, for me, I'm designated driver now, and every time you're driving back, can we stop at Mackey's?
I don't go out with people who are drinking now. I just don't do it because I always have a miserable time. It's like I only get a weekend off every week. That's your free time.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend it looking after drunk people. I tried to have fun for a very long time, and in the end, I was like, oh, I think I understand now why these longer term sober people aren't really going out in the evening. I might go out for a bite to eat or go out to the cinema, but I'm not going out until 3 a.m. with a group of people who are drinking, because I thought that it would become more fun. I thought, because obviously I'd had nights where I'd been designated driver before, and I knew they were absolutely miserable. But I thought that with a bit of practice, they stopped being miserable and they'd become fun, and they didn't. They always stayed exactly the same, exactly as horrific as when you're designated driver, that bit. And I see people saying how they have even more fun sober than they did drunk, and they tend to be the same people who say they enjoy going to the gym, and I think they're big fat liars.
I think it is important to break that down, though, especially on things like this, because, the only time, and I probably shouldn't admit this, but the only time I ever listened to a sober podcast was in my first week of sobriety. And
didn't it? Shows how effective they are, because you're still sober. Now. You only needed one podcast.
Yeah, one podcast, and that was it. I don't know why I didn't do it years earlier. But I really looked into these like sober resources, and it was all, your skin's going to be better, you're going to sleep better, you're going to do this. It gave me the power to rediscover myself. And I was just sat there like, well, I feel awful. Like, a week of sobriety didn't make me sleep better. A week of sobriety didn't make my skin.
You meant to feel better after a week?
Well, that's what some people said.
Well, it's individual, isn't it?
It's like a positivity cult, isn't it? And, sobriety, without a doubt, has saved my life. And sobriety, without a doubt, has changed my life. And I wouldn't be where I am now without my sobriety. But, life is still life. And sometimes that's really shit.
Sometimes it's a complete shit show. Last year, not so long ago, I was working night shifts cleaning a kebab factory.
Wow.
Now, sobriety doesn't make that any better.
No, quite the opposite.
Yeah, after you've been crawling on your knees, scraping up lamb fat from the UK's largest kebab factory for several hours, and then you're going home, getting in bed at 6 a.m., life is still shit, whether you're sober or not. And but I've managed to get out of that. Maybe if I was still drinking, that is the sort of job I'd end up doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is what sobriety has given me is the tools to process these feelings and to process these occurrences, and also just not to do something that doesn't serve me anymore. So if I'm on a night with my friends and it gets to 11 o'clock and I'm tired, I'll go home and that's okay.
Yeah,
whereas beforehand, I'd have stuck around in a situation that wasn't good for me and wasn't healthy for me, and who knows what would have happened. So that's what sobriety has done for me.
And often you don't even find out what happened.
Oh no, I hate that. I've still got some nights where it's not all there.
What, even though you're sober? You still don't know what you did?
No, as in from my drinking days.
Okay.
Some evenings, no, not now.
I thought maybe you came back from the cafe and was like, I have no idea how I got home. Start checking the local police Twitter account to see if you attacked anyone on the way.
The sudden smell of burning toast and a limpness in my left arm.
I have done that before, and I laugh about it. It was absolutely horrific. I mean, I used to come back sometimes with injuries.
Yeah.
That I couldn't account for. And I'd have this terrible feeling, even though I'm a complete weakling and a lover, not a fighter. I think, oh my God, it looks like I've been in a fight. So in all likelihood, I've been in a fight. And then this thought, what if I won the fight? I know it's unlikely, but what if I won the fight and the other person is worse off than me?
Mm-hmm.
And then I spent a whole weekend checking the local police Twitter account for appeals for information to see if there's any appeals for someone who looked like me or was in the area that I was.
And were there ever any?
No, I still don't know what happened
Mm-hmm.
that particular night I'm thinking of. On the person whose house I went round, she's now an MP. And
Wow.
that was a wild party. I'd originally walked out without any trousers on, and she had to go and get me back. I hadn't realised I hadn't got trousers on, and she had to dress me.
Oh, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, it doesn't though. I used to think this is just something that happens, but
Yeah.
a lot of people this never happens to.
It's scary, isn't it? I mean, my girlfriend now, she met me as I was just got sober. And some of the stories that I have is like, no, I did do all of this. And she'll kind of be like, no, it wouldn't have been that bad. And it's like, no, I was a bad guy. Like,
And now, you a little bit like myself. You sound a little bit posh, don't you? Sometimes.
occasionally,
And does that leads to disbelief, doesn't it?
yeah.
People think, no, you can't be a bad boy.
Mm-hmm. I think people
You're
look at me. And,
well-spoken.
yes, look at you.
No, I'm on probation still. Yeah, I'm an ex-con. People don't believe it.
Mm. It's like, but
Wouldn't have
darling,
been if I hadn't
you're
been-
so middle class, and it's like, yes, but well, alcohol doesn't pick, does it?
No, it does not discriminate.
One more thing to ask you about Sober News UK.
Yes,
Tell me about this.
the
'Cause it looks
website.
very exciting.
I got very bored when I sobered up. I all of a sudden got all this time and no friends and no hobbies. I thought I've got to do something because I just got to do anything to stop myself drinking. And as we came out of lockdown, there were more and more sober events going on. I was hosting some myself, so I thought I need a website to sell tickets to some events.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, you know what? I'm not doing so many events now, but there's loads more events out there. I don't know how to find them. It was very difficult to find them. I found lots of individual people putting on events, and it was very difficult to find anything unless you spent hours trawling the internet. So I thought I will put them all on my website. And then I started writing a blog, and I started writing news and features about people's recovery journeys, about the alcohol industry, about sober events, things. And I've just kept doing that because I'm an obsessive sort of person. And so now I still blog there, and I help promote sober events and also sober groups, sober meetup groups. And I survive off of little donations that I get from people because it's expensive. People don't realize how expensive it is to run a bloody website.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
'Cause you
All
get
of
the
this
website.
stuff is so.
Yeah, that's now £400 a year plus monthly costs, and then you have to get these plugins for the events. And so, oh God,
Do you know what would solve that issue?
Yes,
Giving us a sober rebate. That's what would solve the issue.
the sober bloody rebate. We want it paid for by the alcohol industry.
Yeah, give us a sober rebate so we can do our podcasts and make our little groups and do our little Instagram pages, and then the world will be great.
I've often thought that the government should pay you just to be sober. I'm like, it's a lot of work. It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Instead of just a rebate, a pension. They should put you on a sobriety pension.
Pension.
Yeah, I think once you've gone sober and you've had about 6 months, I think that's fair enough. You then start getting 20 grand a year from the government for being sober because it's a full-time job. Because people think, oh, how much work can it be not drinking? But it's not just not drinking, is it? Because you've got to have a blog, you've got to do a podcast, you've got to get up every morning to do your cold water dip and go to the gym. It takes up a lot of time. There's
no point being sober unless you're going to talk about it on the internet.
Exactly, constantly. You've got to proselytize and make as many other people sober as possible, like a militant vegan.
Yeah, people don't realize this. I think it's one of the biggest crimes against the sober community.
It's exhausting. It's a full-time job.
What would you say to somebody who might be listening to this like I was 2 years ago in my first week of sobriety? And they're going to listen to this and then they're never going to listen to a sobriety podcast again. What would you say to that person who might be feeling like, their life is over?
I would say there are other podcasts available. it's not just Michael and Ben. Like this is not the
God, imagine how fucked we'd be if this was it.
exactly. If this is your only help,
we'd be the only two sober people left.
Yeah, please don't let us put you off. Keep it up. Other resources are available. Was that not on brand, Ben?
I think that was perfect. So on that, I'm going to say thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs, and today I was joined by Michael Sargood, aka Happy Without the Hooch. Now, for more information on Michael, you can visit his Instagram page, Happy Without the Hooch, or you can check out his website at sobernews.co.uk. For more information on Alcohol Change UK, give them a Google or check them out on their socials. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you very, very soon, but for now, go and enjoy yourself. I don't know, have a shower in the middle of the day. Do whatever you want.